Now we're here basically to go over the variety of colors that we find in human skin. It's not just one color and you make a light and dark out of that. And Michael here has kind of a sequence or progression of colors that he likes to use in most circumstances, so we're going to let him explain exactly what that is.
Okay. What I'm going to start out with first is mixing up a base color for the face. The base color is my terminology. Local color is another way of saying it. And as you can see right here, I've got this pastel pasted up next to the portrait that I'll be painting. And some things that are going to be very important as we go along have to do with the transitions of color from cool to warm. Now, I don't have a great deal of shadow, and what shadow I do have is underneath the jaw. Normally, shadows are warm in color, kind of a very warm, neutral color. In this case, because there's so much blue light reflecting up into it, you see kind of a purplish color in that. But in any case, this is what the shadow is, and from there, usually what you get in skin is warm shadows going into cool halftones. Now, these are the very dark halftones that I'm talking about. And halftones always have to be understood as being in the primary light source. The light source coming down from up above in this case. So all these dark areas here are not shadows, those are just very dark areas that are being hit by the primary light source. And you notice they all have kind of a neutral or kind of a greenish hue to them. So those are your dark halftones. From the dark halftones, you work towards your lighter and lighter values. These are your middle halftones in the cheek and also in the area of the jowl and the jaw. And they start getting into your oranges and pinks. Now, if you notice up in the head, that coloration is a little bit different. Why is that happening? Well, you still do see your pinks up in the head to some extent, but if you notice, there's more concentration of red in the cheeks, the nose, and the chin. Those are areas in the skin where there's a lot of blood vessels coming up close to the surface, so you're going to see more of an influence of the reddish color in those areas. But you don't get as much of that in areas like the forehead, where the concentration of blood vessels is not nearly as, predominant. In any case, you still see this basic idea of the shadows being warm, going to cool transition halftones through this basic area here, and then going into warm halftones, what I'll call warm middle halftones. Like I said, your pinks, your oranges, and then as you move further into the lighter area, you of course get lighter warm colors, yellows and oranges, a little bit of pink. And those are your light halftones. Now on top of that, then you get the really high keyed values, which are your highlights. Those, by contrast, are cooler in color, cooler than the surrounding values anyway. When I say cooler, I'm not going to be adding necessarily blue to it, but on certain days, blue might be one of the colors I'd be adding to it. Blue plus white plus some of the flesh color. So in any case, sum up the this basic idea about what happens with skin and many objects actually in nature is you're going from your warm colors in the shadows to the cool, dark transition halftones, going further into the middle halftone areas, which are your oranges, your pinks, and then moving further yet into your lighter areas around the highlights, not the highlights, but around the highlights. Those are still warm, like I said, into your yellow kind of colors, yellows and oranges, and then your highlights being cool. Warm, cool, warm, cool. Warm shadows, cool transition halftones, warm light halftones, cool highlights. So what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be mixing up a color which is similar to the color in this area here. I'm going to use kind of a light middle tone color that I'm going to try to match my palette. I usually start out with 3 basic colors, maybe 3 or 4. I use white, and then along with the white I'll be adding Naples Yellow. And along with Naples, after that I'll be using Vermillion Red. Notice I'll be using less Vermillion Red than either the white or the Naples Yellow. And then also a little bit of Alizarin Crimson. Those are the colors I usually start out with to mix up this general local color or base color, as I like to call it. Once I've got that mixed up, I'm going to hold it up to the pastel And remember that pastel was what was done from life. This was the colors that you see in the pastel were derived from my sessions with the Chancellor, which were done under natural light. Now this color that I'm mixing up here has got an awful lot of yellow in it, and it's going to be nowhere near the color I need, but I just want to hold it up there so that you can see how close I am to that color as of right now. I'm going to be needing to add a lot more red to it for sure. So I'm going to go back here and add more vermilion red to it. These will not be the only colors I'll be using in my flesh, but it will be the colors that I'll be starting out with. You got to mix it in real good. Make sure those all those paints are thoroughly mixed on the palette. And you can see I'm still quite a distance off from it. So I'm going to be having to add a good deal more vermilion to this mixture. And just looking at the skin complexion of the Chancellor, I think that I'm seeing an influence of yellow ochre in there as well. I'm going to just put this up for myself one more time. And I'm getting closer now, but I think a little yellow ochre is going to help. Many times people that are of, from the Mediterranean area will have something of an olive complexion in their skin, and so I'm thinking that this is why we're getting a little close. But again, we see much more than need for red. I'm going to add a little more alizarin crimson to it this time, and one more time I'm going into the vermilion red. Okay, now I've added just a little bit of light red to it. It's not cad light red. This is the color light red. I should also just tell you what's on the palette here as far as my colors go. I have white here, Naples Yellow, cad yellow medium, yellow ochre. This is called Italian Earth. It's another version of raw sienna. Raw sienna would be fine. I have vermilion red. This is cad red, light red, just light red, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, and raw sienna. This is, raw umber, and this is ivory black. Those are the colors that I'll be using for this. It doesn't mean I'll be using all those colors. I'm just getting them ready just in case they are going to be something I'll be incorporating into the portrait. Now, you're going to see on this palette a transition of colors that's going to develop. These transitions are going to follow the transitions that I'm seeing in the portrait itself, going from these cooler colors to the warmer colors to eventually the highlights. And you'll actually see those colors painted here. The transitions that you'll see on the canvas will also be seen on the palette as well. And it's interestingly enough, those colors follow the color spectrum as you see here. Notice I've got my blues going into the reds, going into the oranges and yellows, just like the color spectrum does. And I was noticing that in Jeff's description of snow that you just don't go from yellow to blue. You go from your yellows, your pinks to your blues. And interestingly enough, it's very similar to the face. You go from your yellows to your oranges, your pinks to your blues. And I think all forms in nature are doing that same type of transition in color to one degree or another. So I'll go ahead and start mixing up some of the color in the darks. I always like to start with the darks first. And looking at it, I'll take some of this right here and then introduce some raw sienna into it, or Italian Earth. I'm needing to darken this substantially, so I'm adding alizarin crimson and ultramarine blue. And I put it right up to that, and I notice it's got a lot more what appears to be blue and green in it, so I'll be adding more of that into this color. Well, I've finished mixing up this color here, added more light red to it and some more ultramarine blue. And I mixed up another color right here, this purplish kind of color, which was for these shadow areas right along the jaw area, underneath the jaw. So I'll go ahead and get started with these two colors here, and then you'll see how I develop transitions into the lighter areas as we go along. Since I'm painting a thin area, I'll be using a smaller brush. I'll be painting into the shadow first. I always like to proceed from my darks to my lights.